Writing Out Loud, a program designed to explore in-depth interviews with writers to hear that words have voices. Our hostess for today's program is Teresa Miller, Executive Director for the Oklahoma Center for Poets and Writers at OSU Tulsa.
Hello everyone, I'm Teresa Miller and welcome to Writing Out Loud. This is the second of a two-part interview with the legendary actress Lynn Redgrave and her daughter Annabel Clark, photographer. They are the co-authors of this wonderful book, Journal, A Mother and Daughter's Recovery from Breast Cancer. Beautiful, beautiful book. Annabel, it's December 2002. You come home to listen to your messages, and your mom says you need to call her. What's going through your mind as you return the call?
Well, I thought it was actually just any old call. It was right before Christmas, and she was about to pick up my sister from the airport, so it didn't sound any different than, call me back any other time. So I actually called her back on my way to the subway. I was going to go into the city. I live in New York. And I'm standing outside the subway. I called her back and just said, "What's going on?" And she sort of went into the whole thing. I found a lump. I've been diagnosed. I'm going to do this. She had already gotten the whole plan of action sorted out, but everything's going to be okay. The motherly spin on it, and so I was just standing outside of the subway, going, "I can't get on the subway. I can't go to the city."
Oh, I bet so.
And so it was a real shock just calling her back and finding out the news.
Lynn, as hard as it was to get the diagnosis that you had cancer, it had to be even harder in some ways to tell Annabel.
It was, and to tell any of the family, and I held off telling anybody until I knew what the course of action was. And that was hard, having this huge secret. Mm-hmm. That was really hard. And I didn't mean it. The last thing I wanted was a cell phone situation. I kept thinking something will come up where I can do this, the right way, whatever the right way is. Who knows what the right way is? But her sister was going to be arriving any minute, and I wanted her to know before her sister arrived. And it was, and I did put such a spin on it, and that actually helped me by being very positive and it's fine. We're going to do this, that, the other, and then no worries. But when I realized, she was by the subway and it was a wintry day and all of that, it was horrible. I felt so bad about it.
It's okay.
You weren't able to be as forthcoming, though, with your own mother as you were with your children.
I didn't tell my mother at all. My mother was by then 92, and she didn't have Alzheimer's, but she came and went as far as being lucid. And about 8 months before, I'd had a call from England because she was there with my sister, and she'd gone up to one of the carers. She had 24-hour care, but at my sister's home. And she said she was sure that I was dead and the carer was hiding the body. Now, this is way before I was diagnosed. So, she would go into these worries. I was her youngest. I was her baby, her special one. And it would have just blown her mind apart to think that I had cancer. So it was best not to tell her, because why do that? Because she would do something funny with her mind with it and maybe see just terrible things. But what was so sweet was she'd stroke my wig and say, "Your hair is so pretty." Oh. And then she would also, my right arm is the one where I had a lot of lymph nodes removed underneath the arm. And sometimes I'd be sitting with her and she'd just start massaging my arm, which was not something she normally did. She just very gently. So there was something like she knew something, but she wasn't upset because she didn't really know. But there was some innate mother instinct.
It's incredible,
and I felt that was best, and I told all my family, we're not going to tell her.
But that was comforting in a way when she would stroke. So you had that experience.
Yeah, and when she'd stroke my wig, said, "Oh, your hair is so pretty." I said, "Oh, thank you." Make sure she didn't pull it.
At what point did you decide that you wanted to go public with this and write this book?
Well, I was at Parsons School of Design at the time when she was diagnosed, and I was on break, and I had a senior thesis coming up. And at first, I think it was the day she told me of the diagnosis that we started talking about photographing the experience. But we didn't decide to actually show anyone until I got back to school and thought, I can do this and another project to actually show at school. And then I thought, why would I do a different project and split my time like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked her if I could show it at school to a class of 12 people. And she was fine with that. And then at the end of the semester, we had a senior exhibition. So then it was, a few more people are going to see it. Is that okay? And so it was really sort of a gradual process of sharing it. We didn't decide that day, let's publish a book. And all of the text is from her journals that she was writing anyway. She didn't write that with a book in mind.
So you've always kept a journal?
Since I was really young. I don't write absolutely every day. I have always like a blank book, so I'm not ruled by what date it says. I write in the date. But I write most days, and particularly during the whole experience with this, sometimes just the writing it down made it bearable on days when I was afraid. Just putting down that I was afraid, putting down that I couldn't stop crying, or putting down that it was a great day because something really small happened, but it made me feel good. And so that it was sort of my own therapy, which I think writing a journal is in many ways.
Well, and in one of your entries, you say that you feel that cancer was lucky for you, and didn't put it quite that way.
No, I felt that generally there was more of an upside than a downside, and that was really because of just learning about living your life and not wasting time, and not just like hurry up and run and do things, but also to take the time to slow down and look at the beautiful view from my home in Connecticut, and just be with my dog, and make a nice pot of English tea, and go out and pick a rose.
And watch American Idol.
And watch American Idol. Exactly, yes.
Do you ever feel pressured, though, sometimes to make the most of every moment?
I do. I have a problem sometimes with when I wake up early, I could go back to sleep, but I'd be missing time. And that then I have to sort of play with that for a minute or two. And it depends how awake I am, and then I think I'll get up. I can always nap later.
I was wondering if you ever got impatient with the ordinary, going to the store, the routine kinds of things.
No, I don't get impatient with it. I like it. I like the ordinary things because they make me feel like me. I don't feel like I'm, this person with cancer. If I've got to go buy some potatoes and, make sure I've got the hummus because somebody's coming over, and the chips,
Annabel, is it true you'd never really photographed your mother before this?
Not really, no. What's strange, though, is that the first picture in the book with her hair, and it's just a nice portrait of her. I took that on Thanksgiving 2 weeks before she was diagnosed, and that was just sort of by chance. I hadn't really taken her portrait before that, and it ended up going in the book as kind of the before we knew, but she must have had the cancer at that point. But,
definitely,
yeah. So it was kind of strange that I decided to do that.
Well, I remember you saying, you get your photograph taken so often. I haven't really thought about taking your picture. So do you want to do something on the porch? We went out on the deck and you did that nice picture. Like, well, that's nice.
Did you worry at all about how it might be received? Because I remember when you were on the series House Calls, Lynn, and there was a big dispute about breastfeeding Annabel.
Well, it seemed wonderfully full circle that the baby that I fought for the right to breastfeed, and now, while I lost the battle and the war, if you like, I didn't really, because now that is so a thing of the past. From the moment that I brought that suit, studios started doing something they'd never done before, which is have on-site daycare. Nobody dreamed of saying to an actress, you can't have your baby in your dressing room. It's changed so much, and it seemed like a wonderful little full circle that this baby, who I, took those steps for, is the one who saved me when I was losing my breast. So it was kind of like, this is pretty amazing.
And Annabel, what impact did this have on you as you studied your mother through your camera? That had to be gripping for you. Were there times that you just had to pull back from it a little bit?
Yeah, there were one time in particular when I kind of got confused about the whole thing. It's when, after surgery, about 3 weeks after, she was having those drains removed, and I was there with camera poised as they're about to take them out, and she was doing fine, and then they took them out, and immediately as it came out, she just burst into tears, and I didn't know if I should take a picture, or if, you know, I'm standing away from her with my camera. I'm going, am I the daughter, or am I the photographer? What do I do? Is this too intimate to take a picture of that? And so I took one picture and thought, you know, I can always burn the negative later if if it's too much. And then put the camera down and went and became the daughter. Gave her a hug.
Did you go through kind of an editing process when you thought this picture really doesn't belong in the book and we don't want to make this one public? Did you have to pull some out just for that, to maintain privacy?
I don't think there were any pictures that we decided, you know, this is a great picture, but let's not put it in because it's too much. I think any pictures that didn't end up in there just didn't belong or didn't really move the story forward. Or I showed her everything and got her approval, and she never censored anything. In the most private moments.
Was it the fact that you made a project out of this in a way? Did it make it easier? Not that it could be made easy. I mean, it's obviously a terrible challenge, but was it therapeutic for you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it gave me a way to be in control, like without just sitting in the waiting room and reading magazines and, you know, waiting to hear what happened. Instead, I could be in there with her and kind of study it and not look away. And it would be hard, or it was hard, to look at her losing her hair and with the scar. But taking pictures of it, somehow I was able to look longer and take it in.
That's really an insightful thing that you just said, and you made a great comment in the intro to the book. In fact, I've told you should be a writer now because you're so good at that you refer to your camera as a filter.
Yeah.
And did you really feel that it did act as a filter as you looked upon this situation?
Yeah, I was able to just, as I said, look for a longer period of time. And
it filters your emotions as well as the images.
Yeah, because I think it would be harder to just sit there and watch. Have to go excuse yourself or something.
Sure. We're going to show a couple of the pictures. The first one is this lovely one of the two of you on the bed, and you're getting your injection. Could you really be as comfortable with yourself in this process as the picture seems? It looks almost as if you're knitting, Lynn.
I know. It was. I injected myself every day for 8 days after each chemo round with Neupogen, which colonizes the white cells. So it meant that I could stick to a schedule of 2 weekly chemo, which they reckon is better because you're not giving it time to kind of settle back in. And when I first had to do it, of course, they taught me how, and they said, if you can't handle it, you can come to the hospital and we'll do it. But, you know, crossing town, or I live in Connecticut anyway, you know, got to learn to do this. And the first time I had to do it, I put on music, I had candles, I'm like walking around in circles, I like a dog trying to make a bed, you know. I can do it. And I got quite nifty at it, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I'd say, oh, I'm just going to inject. She'd say, oh, hang on, I'm just going to take a picture of that. So I was just about to stick it in me. But I do look at that picture, and Annabel looks absolutely beautiful. That's my bedroom in Connecticut. I can't quite recognize myself from that picture, because my legs have swollen a bit, and of course I don't have hair, and from the various drugs and things, or whatever is in the chemo, I guess, or the anti-nausea pills, you know, your face goes a little different. So it's hard for me to look at that and say, that's me. That really is me, but it is.
And during that time, you were sort of at cross purposes in a sense, because you were continuing to be in an off-Broadway play and previews for another, so you were putting on wigs and adornments to be other people, characters, and then in your own life, you're struggling to be who you are, unadorned.
Yes, and to begin with, you know, I was trying to keep this secret because I was afraid that, you know, people are afraid of cancer and they won't give you work, and I know that I need work, one, because it's what we call doctor theatre. You know, it just gives me that, you know, I've got somewhere to go, somewhere I've got to come through for other people, and that's very helpful. But also for health insurance. it's all through our unions, and so
Sure.
that was important. And I was trying to keep it secret, and then I got outed by the National Enquirer. And actually, once I came out and decided to take control and indeed go on Larry King, because that way I could say it my way, not the way the National Enquirer wanted to do it. And, of course, once I'd come out with it, the fact that I was working meant people were like, "You're working? Oh, fantastic." So then it was so much easier. It was so much easier with my colleagues, instead of trying to hide the changing of the wig or the whatever. And they were all so wonderful, couldn't have been more wonderful.
You had to feel so violated when the National Enquirer broke
They
that
do
news.
They do that. I mean, who knows how they find out, but you know that the way they want to do it is just sort of lurid and battling through her tears and, all that stuff that we don't like. And so I just wanted to let people know that I was carrying on, and that, look at me, I'm a person having chemo, but here I am, and I've got a wig on, and, I was really upfront about it. That helped.
We're showing another picture, the picture of you in the pool.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of your favorites, isn't it, Annabelle? Tell us why you like this photo so much.
I think that was during radiation, so in the summer, and so we were really getting into the last stretches of treatment, and the prognosis was really good at that point. They said, once you're done with radiation, you're going to be done.
Right.
And so that's pretty close to that, and she's wearing this long,
UV protective.
Yeah, UV protective thing, shirt to swim in, because they say you shouldn't get sunburned when you're having radiation. She kind of looks like she's at peace, and she's, even though her hair's gone, and as she said, her face changed a lot, sort of got puffy, and yet she looks really okay with where she's at.
And and the journal entry, and again, these entries are just so revealing. Talks about cancer as being life affirming. So this is a theme throughout the book, that it is life affirming. Did you ever though just feel despair, Lynn?
I got some wimpy days where I'd get a bad attitude, but not very often. And I'd usually phone somebody and say, I've got bad attitude today. I'm usually good, but I've got a bad attitude. I'm grumpy. I'm fed up with this. But, I'm blessed by having a very resilient nature, and I don't stay grumpy and for me for more than a few seconds, because it just seems to be such a time waster.
Well, do you think the fact that you learned to be honest and say this is how I'm feeling has helped you in other aspects of your life, that you're more willing now to say what you really think and how you really feel about other things unrelated to health?
Very much so. I don't let anything, a misunderstanding or perhaps a wrong word with a friend, go unfixed. I don't let, how we let things go. Maybe we said something we wished we hadn't said to a friend, or they to us. And if it's something to me, I come right out with it, and I say, since I've had cancer, I decided I had to, just be really honest. And when you said that, it upset me. And you probably didn't realize it did, but it really did. And I just wanted you to know. And then usually they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that it's a mistake. But then that's taken care of. And if I've done something that I feel is unkind, or I try not to be unkind, but we all have our moments when maybe we weren't as perfect as we'd like to be. And I apologize so fast, because, like I said in Nightingale, what if this was my last day? And one left that bad moment with somebody, it would be awful. Even if it's little, even if it's a wee thing.
And sometimes wee things can become big things if they're not resolved. Obviously, you two were very close before this happened. What has doing this book, sharing this so intimately, done for you as a mother and daughter?
Well, it's definitely made us closer. I mean, I thought we were close before, but I think this really, we didn't really share this with anyone else, as much support as we both had around us. It's like because we went through it together, we just have this understanding that I think people can now see through the photos, but it's very unique just to to us. I don't know. You just sort of get each other now.
That's a good way of putting it. You get each other.
Yeah, we do.
And in the first part of the interview, I asked you, Annabel, were there things about Lynn that surprised you when you would see her on the screen? Lynn, what surprised you about Annabel during this process as you're watching her work as a photographer and then seeing her devotion as a daughter?
Well, I suppose doing this project, you know, she was at Parsons. I saw, she'd show me her work that she was doing at Parsons. This is prior to this. But I didn't quite realize what a professional she'd become. You know, she's the calmest, most. That's why I'm not very good at having my photograph taken. She would say to me, "Don't do your showbiz smile. Don't do your smiley smile." You know, because I tend to like, "Oh, I'm on camera." You know, and she'd say, "Don't do that, Mum. Just." And she has this extraordinary ability of she's 5'11", and she's got a big camera. But she disappears, and that's why she gets great photos of people, because it's like she becomes invisible, and she gets the shot, and that is just remarkable. And I began noticing the way she would just handle it. We'd be in, you know, the chemo room or whatever, and she'd just quietly stand in the corner, and she'd be, she knows what she's doing. Now, of course, you know, she's done so many wonderful projects, and I'm so proud of her.
Oh, she's extraordinarily gifted, but I can't imagine that there's any other photographer who could say to you, "That's your show business smile," Ms. Redgrave.
And there's a picture in the book when I've got a little white cap on because my hair hadn't come back, and I'm holding bouquets of blue flowers, and that was my final day of radiation. I was taking flowers in to the technicians who ran the machine, who were all sweet young women. It was so nice. I mean, that machine thing is kind of creepy, you know, that you're in this room, there's a big door that says radioactive, whatever, and they close this big door, and you're in there. They can talk to you, and you can talk to them, but anyway, I was so happy that this was the last day, and I said, "Please, can I smile, please, let me smile." I'm so happy I have to smile, so I do smile. She said, "Yeah, you smile."
When it's a real smile.
But it's a real smile, it's not a showbiz smile, right? It's not like, why,
It's just in the sort of bad moments in the hospital when she'd sort of really try to muster up a smile that wasn't real. Yeah, like with the lip, you know.
Yeah, and she rightly
sort of
said, don't do that. And so I feel so comfortable with her when she's taking pictures.
You also have some great pictures of your mom with your Aunt Vanessa. Very, very moving. What did this do for your relationship with Vanessa? Did it strengthen it as well?
Yeah. What was so wonderful was she came over to do Long Day's Journey into Night on Broadway, and she brought our mum because our mum was living with her. And when I was diagnosed, we knew she was going to be coming over. We didn't quite know what she was going to do about Mum. We didn't think she'd function very well in New York City. And my niece very kindly said, you know, have our little guest cottage, and which my mum loved because she'd been there before lots of times, and it's just like a little bit of England, you know. And my sister, you know, it was as though it was meant to be. How could she be just at this moment offered a Broadway play for, like, you know, rehearsals and the run, probably 7-8 months in New York, just when you know, you can need a sister most. And one day I had a difficult day at the hospital and heard a few things that, you know, my doctor told me that I was kind of thrown by, and I just fell apart. And that was one day that Annabel wasn't with me, and I called my sister. It was a Monday. It was her day off. And she said, "I'm coming round right away." She got in a taxi and came round. Then she said, "I'm going to go and get us food from this really, really nice place. I'm going to get us a car." And then, so when I was finished with the treatment, she brought me back to my apartment, and she sat and had food with me. And she's just wonderful. She's a very empathetic, sympathetic person, and it's made us close too. You know, I can call her and have longer. We text each other. She texted me the other day, "It's snowing in Surrey, 3 inches on the magnolia tree."
Oh, you're not fooling us. We know you were texting about American Idol.
No, she doesn't. I don't think she even knows what that is.
Annabel, I mentioned that you're a good writer, and I wanted you to read the closing paragraph from this wonderful foreword you wrote to the book, because I think it sums up everything we've been talking about so beautifully.
Okay. My photographs and her journal entries tell a parallel story of an illness that I now look back on as something we were lucky to go through. While they highlight upsetting moments of vulnerability and hopelessness, they also show her incredible will to overcome this disease with both strength and grace. My mother's will to live has been empowering for me, and I hope will be for other women and their families who are battling cancer. This experience has shown me who my mother really is, and it has brought us together in ways I never could have imagined. This is our journal.
Oh, isn't that great? You've got to be so
beautiful.
It is beautiful. The sentiment and the artistry of it as well. What would you say? There are going to be people watching this show who are facing this challenge or similar challenges in their life. What would you say to them?
Boy, well, if they're lucky enough to have a family member who lives close enough and can be part of their support team, I do think that is fantastic. I know some people are not, sadly, don't have that. Maybe they don't have, relatives in this state or any place. But the support team is so important to be able to sit and laugh and do silly things, whatever the silly thing is for you, and to just have somebody just show up and treat it like a normal day, showing up at a hospital. I used to almost talk myself into thinking it was great to go into the hospital because I'd be meeting her. And so, yeah, they're going to stick a needle in me and put funny stuff in me, but that's not. But we're going to do pictures, and we're going to see each other, and then we'll go and have a cappuccino and and some food, and we'll be feeling fine, or we're going to the movies. I mean, she always usually made it whenever she could, a special thing like, do you feel like going to see so-and-so? Yeah, let's go do that.
Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you, Teresa, very, very much.
And thank all of you for joining us on Writing Out Loud.